Council meeting to order at 7:32 p.m. Would you please join me for the flag salute? You have the flag, or clerk? Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Councilmember Brudnicki.
Here.
Councilmember Iyer.
Here.
Councilmember McHenry.
Here.
Councilmember Remington.
Here.
Councilmember Hogue.
Here.
Councilmember Naflin.
Here.
Councilmember Langle.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Under additions or corrections to the agenda, please remove Agenda Bill 20-95B. And with that, do we have a motion to approve this evening's council agenda?
Mike Remington, so moved.
Second, Michelle Hogue.
Mayor Pro Tem Remington has moved. Councilmember Hogue has seconded approval of this evening's agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And with that, we move on to comments from the audience. So anybody that would like to speak will be able to speak and have 3 minutes to speak. So I hope the clerk has her timer ready. And she's admitting those into the meeting. So with that, I'm wondering how best to do this, but why don't we feel free to unmute yourselves and raise your hand and show yourself on the screen so that I can see that you're willing to talk. And then I'd like to ask you to provide your name and address, and then you can speak to whatever topic you wish. So it's any other council meeting. So with that, is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone that would like to speak. So
I have one person who looks like they raised their hand.
I see it, Jan Hansen. So with that, if you could please mute yourself and introduce yourself, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Jan Hansen, and I'm at, you want my address? Is that what you asked for?
That is typically what we ask for the record.
Okay,
Yes.
it's 31212 Northeast 106th Street in Dwell, up Cherry Valley. First time at one of your meetings, so I was interested in hearing comments about this emergency thing. So I'm hoping you'll address it briefly at least. And I hear you don't have it on the agenda, but it caused quite a stir. So I would really like to hear a little bit more about the thought behind that, if that's a possibility, just a little bit of background. And then Mayor Amy, I have been trying to get a hold of you. Not sure why you're not returning my call, but it's already been quite a long time ago that I tried calling you, but if you wouldn't mind trying to call me back, that'd be great.
I don't have a voicemail from you that I have on my phone, so
well, you do. I'm sure you do. I left 2 of them, and that's quite a long time ago.
So Ms. Hansen, I do want to say that there are some phone numbers floating out on the internet that are not the correct phone number to call me at. So I would be happy to give you a call. And sometimes we don't get all of our messages. That does happen.
Well, you did. It was your voice on it, and and you picked. Okay. It was a voice. Your voicemail. So yes, I don't know if that's fake too. It might be.
No, we have had some phone system issues. So if it was the city phone, it would have gone to voicemail. And,
it was a 206 number, so I don't know which.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you would, number.
If you can, if you feel comfortable private messaging me or texting your phone number, I'm happy to give you a call. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll do that. So
and
anyway,
thank you for following up on that. Sometimes we don't get all of our messages, and so it's very helpful to have a follow-up.
Got it. No worries. Thank you.
All right.
That was it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? All right, seeing none, Mayor Pro Tem Remington asked to have a moment on the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. I sure appreciate it. I appreciate the input we've had from several of our citizens over the weekend and yesterday regarding the proposed ordinance for civil emergency. I just want to talk to our citizens personally about it. It's not unusual. In fact, it's pretty normal to have a ordinance in place regarding civil emergency. Most of those are used, and I'll use exact examples across the US just this year. Most of these are environmental emergencies. They're specific examples are California had large tracts of homes burned in wildfires. They would put a curfew in place, mostly to just let people know it's dangerous to go in there because of down power lines, roads that are blocked by trees. And more importantly, the people that were coming in there were often coming in to steal and rob from some of the residents that weren't burned. We saw that again in Louisiana, the southern part of the US with hurricanes where there was tremendous amount of floods. The homeowners had left and evacuated. And again, there were a lot of people coming in that police had to deal with that were looting and taking advantage of the situation. So that's normally where they're used. Here in the US, we don't have some of those that we normally deal with, but certainly in a large earthquake where some areas could be devastated, especially in Seattle with high-rise buildings, you would likely see that take place. Those weren't the concerns that citizens shared. I just simply wanted to say that that's why the ordinance is normally looked at. The part that citizens were concerned about was the part that related to a civil disturbance. Some of the comments we received, there were concerns about civil liberties, having our rights as citizens affected, to be able to gather downtown or just to get out to the grocery store, impacts on our businesses if we were to actually shut down a portion of downtown, especially during COVID-19 when businesses are already impacted. There was a desire for more public input. This is something that many citizens felt was extremely important to them, and they wanted additional time to be able to have input, especially on Section C that had to do with having a curfew during civil emergency. And there was also comments made about, having one person in the city empowered to make that decision instead of having a larger group. All those comments and feedback we appreciate. We removed that from the for several reasons, but receiving comments from citizens, our police right now for several reasons are extremely busy. And we thought, we're trying to be practical here as your city council, as your city, and just say, look, we've had other things in the past that citizens were very concerned about. I'll give a specific example. We had a fireworks emergency ban ordinance, not banning fireworks, but saying in a situation where we might have a drought, we provided that opportunity for the mayor in consultation with our fire chief to be able to ban fireworks during a drought period and reduce the danger to the citizens. So in that case, we also delayed. We specifically provided not just a public hearing at a council meeting, but we had a special meeting just for public input. So we're looking at, similar tack. We're talking about how do we improve public opportunity for public input. We, as a city council, have already addressed our similar concerns that we want to be careful with the language and limit the impacts it might have. I will say that certainly in this atmosphere we have with public dissent, concern in the political realm with elections and the impacts those have, there's really a heightened sensitivity to these things and concerns. It's appropriate for citizens to talk to us as council and the mayor and concerns that you have, and we're listening to those. And we thought it was best for tonight to remove it from the agenda, not rush something through. Certainly, if something were to happen, the police have tools to be able to take action against people that are breaking the law. but we also respect our citizens. We respect the diversity in not only our makeup, but in terms of who we are and our thoughts and our political stances. But we're all neighbors, every single one of us, and we want to be respectful of each other. I personally am very appreciative watching our citizens over the last several months, both with coming out to voice their opinions on Black Lives Matter, to show support with demonstrations, as well as political rallies, if you will. We've had both Democrat and Republican in town in the last several weeks. I thought those were very respectfully done. And I would just ask for all of our citizens to respect the fact that there's different sides on everything, but we do appreciate it. And I'll just simply end by saying that we'll be likely bringing something forward at an appropriate time to discuss this. We'll make sure it's announced to the public. We'll certainly consider every opportunity to have public feedback as well. As I've looked around, I spent 40 years in the fire service in Bellevue, and I can tell you that it's very nice to have tools available, especially during a earthquake and other type of emergency. We have zero interest in trying to prevent people from expressing their feelings, to be able to protest. I think those citizens that I've watched in Duval have been very respectful and done it in a way that they can make their point, have their say in the public, and not cause the kind of damage that we've seen. It's certainly our prayer that that continues through this election period. And it's challenging. There's the feelings are real, and we just recognize that. So on behalf of our council, and I think I can speak for our administration as well, we appreciate your input, and we're listening, and we want to get it right if we do pass an ordinance. And this is one that obviously is a sensitive topic to folks, and your input on the wordage and so on would be very important. We're not going to sneak it in. We'll make it very clear when it comes up, what we're working on and when. So thank you, and continue to provide feedback for us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I'll just add, you shared sentiments very well. I think it did throw some of us for a loop, but it was such a big concern because it's such a routine part of emergency management policy for most cities. However, I think with the ordinance that was drafted, it's pretty basic and really follows what other cities have done. But with some of the feedback, we're going to be able to make some modifications for the discussion that will be clarify some things significantly. And I think that the discussion will be much different the next time it comes forth. So all of that feedback was appreciated, and the concerns are appreciated as well. And I think one of the things that's come out of this is that as a city, we need to do a better job of educating the community what the city's role is in emergency management and other areas, and what is standard for cities and what's under emergency management guidelines and what have you. Mayor Pro Tem, you're very well versed from your years in the fire service and getting that information out, so there can be a discussion without anger, because that's really important, is to have a discussion that's based on facts, based on needs, and doesn't become angry over something that for most cities is pretty routine. So thank you. Moving on to Agenda Bill 20-96A, 275th Complete Streets Project Change Order number 1. For discussion and or decision. I did reach out to some council members last week to see if there was any interest in this change order. It was something that wouldn't have fit in the original grant application as far as the cost originally, and so we asked Steve and I talked about it and asked him to do check with the contractor and see how much it would cost to make this change order, and so I will let Mr. Laniszewski take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens. Steve Laniszewski, Public Director. So as time is always of the essence, the precipice of this activity was partly due to the response to the council survey that was communicated. It seemed quite overwhelming that comments were received for more sidewalks, where and when it could be done, as well as lighting. So the mayor asked that we provide a number as soon as possible, and the contractor is, one, willing to do the work, and then two, has agreed to the number that was submitted into the council packet. It is a unit cost assessment, so the only one that does not provide a unit cost for this work would be the clear and grade and excavation, the clear and grade and property restoration work, which would all be inclusive because it was lump sum in the beginning project. So everything else is, per ton of rock, per excavated material, and per concrete sidewalk, as well as ADA ramp. So I'll share my screen real quick. So those who may not know can know, they'd like to see. The project ends at the corner of 275th and 150th on the southeast side. So the proposal is to extend a 5-foot sidewalk adjacent to the curb line from 275th to 275th, I believe it is Lane, and just finish that off into the neighborhood. That would help access in and around. And I am always still astounded by how many people, even during construction, still walk on that side of the road. I walk it fairly routinely with the 14-week-old puppy now, and I just am like, even in the middle of the day, even during construction hours, they're over there. So this would be I think, received benefit. It would also increase sight distance. I did reach out at the mayor's request to the homeowners association, and the president was very kind to call back. We had a great conversation. She believes the board is all for it. She's certainly all for it, and wanted to make sure, hey, sight distance is kind of hard coming out of this area anyway, so we wouldn't allow parking on that side of the road. I think we are in a time of transition, understanding how the sidewalk's going to work. Parking adjacent to the playground and whatnot is already had for on the north side. So keeping sight distance in mind, it was asked that we bring a number forward. So I put 15,000 not to exceed for a change order on this contracted work. And the $11,216 value is agreed upon basically between us and the contractor on unit costs. So with that said, do we have any questions? It is in the right of way. There's plenty of right of way there. There's about 7.5 feet where the fence line exists on the far, that's the project's northwest corner. And then as you go back to the east, the right of way gets wider to almost 10 feet by the time you get to the interior roadway. So we do have space. That is important to have. Outside of that, I don't have any other comment. It has been fairly well received from people I have talked to on site. And again, the survey was, I wouldn't say quite overwhelming, but I was quite surprised at the consistency in some of the comments. So questions, comments?
Councilmember McHenry.
Yeah, I just wanted to agree that for me and my decision on this, it was made easy by that survey because it was a very clear, consistent message that sidewalks are of the utmost importance to our community. I think one question I just wanted to confirm, because I know you checked with the HOA, but it does look like there's a residence on that corner. I was just curious what kind of buffer would exist between sidewalk and their fence. It looks like that's a backyard fence, if I'm correct.
Yeah, side yard fence. I talked to him early on and explained what we were doing months ago. He's certainly a nice fella. Was more interested in more trees staying along his back fence line than, again, if sidewalk were to come to the north. And I don't know, Mayor, or to the east, if you were there with me that day he came out, but somebody was, and we chatted with him. So he seemed nice enough, and the HOA does maintain that frontage, which of course I wanted to make sure the president and the group was up to speed on. So that is his side yard, not his backyard on that leg. And there's a large cedar in and amongst that. We would limb up to about 80 inches, not affect we're not removing any trees in addition here, just limbing. There's a smaller cedar underneath the bigger cedar, and then grading out some of there's heather and a couple of laurel and some other low growing shrubs. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Steve, Mike Remington.
Yes, sir.
It seemed kind of dark in there, and I know there's lighting around the corner, and that we're trying to improve some of that and safety. We've talked about putting in, I forget the name of it, blinking light there for pedestrian safety. But is there a need for lighting on that corner, maybe closer to the HOA? I know that, concerned about light pollution, but it just seems like such a critical corner, and we've heard so much from our survey about not just having sidewalks, but lighting to help improve safety, especially at night. Your thoughts on that?
So there is not a light at that corner, and then I can do.
The intersection, I think, is fairly well lit up, isn't it?
It's not great, but it's not all that bad. I'm going to share a different screen here. So this is coming out of 275th Place. So the sidewalk would exist here and then terminate into the neighborhood. They have a small, non-traditional, like a 3-foot asphalt pathway adjacent to the interior of their subdivision. So you have the illumination that is on the corner here that exists, and then on the pole right here that exists, but there is not a pole on either side of this facility.
Yeah. If I'm correct, it looks like there was a light though just across the street, so that would help light that up. I'm probably being a little sensitive because I'm looking at the shadows and where the sunlight, it looks darker during the day, but that light across the street looks like it would provide some lighting anyway to help in that area.
Yeah, it provides some. I wouldn't say direct light to the intersection, but it is better lit than others just with that adjacent light system. And by no means am I intending for this to be a permanent solution. One of our CIP projects on the transportation list is 150th, and 150th as it exists doesn't necessarily need a whole bunch of improvements. It needs more diet as we go up and down the roadway than it does facilities. But we have some missing sidewalk here, traffic control at this intersection here. So, the ultimate alignment that may not jive, but adding lighting in the future, and of course facilitating additional sidewalk as we do something bigger down the road, certainly is going to happen. But I think we all looked earlier, and I still believe 3rd Avenue is probably a higher priority because there are a multitude of improvements on this road, and 3rd is growing so fast with so deficient sections within it. So yeah, this is a great candidate for a project down the road too. So, but I thought this was a wise stopgap for under $15,000 to add that element into this neighborhood. And in my opinion, improving, granted there's only 20 some odd units in here, but improving their sight distance upon exiting the subdivision, as you can see, it is a little difficult to see, and I can't get it exact, but it has merits there as well for safety.
Good. I'm getting dizzy, by the way.
Sorry, I know.
It's okay. It's okay. Hey, so a follow-up question, Steve. By the way, I'm fully supportive of this sidewalk. I think that's just, I think it's we're already out there doing the work, and I think improving safety on that corner is key. So one of the gaps we have is a sidewalk from where this new project would end up 150th a ways. That's been there for a long time. I just wanted to ask the question. So we're going to put this sidewalk in. Does that line up with maybe a future project? You mentioned 150th improvements. I think a key is getting that sidewalk completed on the south side of 150th. So have we done that look engineering wise? If we put the sidewalk in, does it line up where we'd put another sidewalk further up the hill? Or would we tear this out and have to redo a bunch of stuff? Your thoughts?
I think, yeah, we certainly have choices always. The road berth is wide there, so ultimately it might need to be reduced, but the sidewalk could stay, but you could reduce it by adding landscape strip and just moving the travel lane, existing asphalt in and just removing some of the asphalt. That would be an element. And dare I say, as you did, I won't go back to making you car sick, but as you do look up that corridor, there are quite a few trees, and we know how everybody loves trees. So you might have to come up with an alternate in that section altogether. moving forward as you go from that intersection, then further east.
So another question popped in. Is this new sidewalk right on the street, or will there be a little bit of space? We got 7 feet, so there's not a lot of room there between, the road and the fence, but probably enough to give a little gap. Or is it going to be right there on the street on the curb?
So I went back to screen share. So the curb line stays intact for cost purposes on this. We just put the sidewalk right behind the curb. The roadway is, I think it was 18 feet from face of curb to center line. We intend to stripe this for no parking, not a complete whiteout, but probably add in a fog line so you feel the space away. I wouldn't do that now with weather, but probably in the spring or summer next year. But yeah, certainly make that non-usable area so you're not right up against it with the car, and it's as far away from the center line as possible.
So the sidewalk will be right at the curb?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lingle and then Councilmember Hoag.
Okay, I'm using this as a learning moment. I'm in support of this, so I'll put that aside. But this is a really good example of where a basic project we've already agreed to do is adding something a little extra for the neighborhoods. And they're really cost-effective choices. And so I'm really glad that this came forward. It's super great that it's part of the survey, and it makes a lot of sense to me because of that. I mean, that's what neighborhoods are looking for, that little extra something. That's what they feel like they voted for. And I'm not suggesting changing the funding source. I mean, that's up to Steve to propose, but I think this is a perfect example, actually.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Hoag.
So I had the same concerns as Councilmember McHenry about the neighbor on that corner, the one where that fence is, behind the fence. And I just feel that it would be good to reach out to them before we approve this project. I know we've reached out to the association, but I don't know that that particular owner knows that this would be extended.
We did speak to him in the past, not in fact, but in person on site. And I did inform him it was possible. He seemed non-concerned about the side, more so again than trees on his back line, which is the main side of 275. I asked the HOA president to reach out to her group, and I haven't had confirmation, nor did I request confirmation back from her. So time is of the essence. Should I wait another week? I don't know that. I can't say that costs would be exactly the same because they are mobilized now for the work that they're doing. So I can't pledge the number stays the same. I guess that's about the only thing I can say on time.
Into one of these holes.
But I'd be more than willing to reach out to him specifically tomorrow and let him know it's going forward. I guess I can give you that solace.
I think that would be great. I would want to know if I live behind there ahead of time.
And we did, when I was out on site with Steve, it was a nice conversation with him, and he again seemed, it was more about the trees and not opposing a sidewalk going in on city property. Any other council members want to speak to this or have questions?
And I think maybe to help Councilmember Hoag out, I can certainly reach out tomorrow, but let me share screen one more time to. The good news is he has quite a bit of distance away from his fence line, and the bulk of the house is tipped towards the other side of his property. So that fence line, from his back deck patio would be 50 feet from there. House corner 50 feet. So the good news is his bedroom isn't right up against it. It's the bulk of his garage inside. So that's, but I certainly will reach out tomorrow, knock on the door if that's the way we end up going.
That's not a problem, Steve. It shouldn't, I think that's easy to do.
And it's all ground cover coming out. We're not impacting the tree canopy. We have to limb a tree or two because there's 2 cedar in there, but that, nothing else. The rest is just some shrubs, heather, laurel, and some other kinnikinnick or something growing on the ground, which we're very open with the HOA on.
Councilmember Lingo, but I also haven't heard from several other council members. So is there anybody that hasn't spoken that would like to speak before Councilmember Lingo? Okay. Councilmember Napland.
I just want to say I am in support of this. I think it's, you know, I don't like scope creep, but in this case, I do think it would be worthwhile to do it. I really do share the same concern. You know, limbing up a tree can sometimes make things feel extremely exposed. So perhaps limb up the side that you need to limb up and leave the back side so you have some buffer. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely consult with him first. That's my only concern.
Right, Councilmember Lingle.
This is really just a question. When you talk to the HOA, is that an area that the HOA actually maintains?
They maintain that front corner. So they do maintain this nice, I think there's a sign somewhere hidden in there or on the other side, but they do trim all that back and rake it out on a very routine basis. They have some columnar evergreen there. The gentleman on the corner doesn't do it. The HOA, I believe, does it. And that's what was shared with me from the HOA president.
Thanks.
Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, then I would ask council to make a motion to suspend your rules to move this item forward this evening.
Mike Remington, I move that we suspend our 3-touch rule.
Councilmember Lingle, your hand is up. Are you making a second? And if so, would you verbalize it?
Yes, I'll make a second.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Remington has moved. Councilmember Lingle has seconded to suspend the 3-touch rule. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. Would someone like to make a motion on Bill 20-96A?
Mike Remington, Mayor. I'll move that City Council approve Agenda Bill 20-96A 275th Complete Street Project Ordinance number 1.
Second.
Right.
Rednick.
Mayor Pro Tem Remington has moved and Councilmember Rednicki has seconded approval of Agenda Bill 20-96A. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. Motion passes. And thank you all. You know, this is one of those opportunities, while there is some scope creep, it's, you know, definitely a value add. And one of the things I'm really pleased about with the survey is it confirmed everything that I've been hearing for the last 10 years regarding sidewalks. And so having that in numbers is helpful and will help us move forward some of those other projects as we move on. So I'm really excited, was excited enough about the 275th project. Being able to do these add-ons is great. And I appreciate council support in moving this forward. So with that, if there are no further, or if there are no objections, we are adjourned.
All right.